Alrighty, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're going to start coding HTML, and the way to do that is we need to get a text editor. There are a bunch of them out there. There's one that I've found that looks pretty good, actually. It's called Brackets, and it supposedly works on Macs, PCs, everything. I've seen it in action, and it's pretty nice. I'm being a little lame here, and I'm going to stick with the one that I usually use, but I've seen this and it seems to work pretty well. So if you're on a Mac or a PC, I would use this. Let's see, PC, the one I'm going to use here in most of these videos is Notepad++, and sadly enough this is just for PC. Alright, so you just come here, hit download and install it. Same thing with Brackets, just hit download, get it down there and install it. Hit other. Okay, those are just the other releases. Now, if you don't want to use Brackets and you're on a Mac, and you don't want to use Brackets and you want something else, there is Text Wrangler. So you come down here. I just did a search for Text Wrangler and came to this bare bones site. And you just download it here. Download it and install it. So the reason why you need a text editor is you can code, and it just helps you code, and it color codes things, so it makes you're finding problems and such easier to do. You could, if you wanted, if you're on a PC, you could just code with Notepad if you wanted to. It works. Problem is you won't get any color coding. You won't. It makes it a little bit harder to find problems when they exist. Another one you could use that I don't recommend is Dreamweaver. The reason why I don't recommend Dreamweaver is just because it gives you a lot of crutches that I think make you a worse programmer. It does a lot of autocomplete for you. Like if I hit HTML and I say I want to do an HTML file, it just boom puts in the code for you, so you don't learn it. You don't remember it. So I wouldn't recommend using that. But if we have to, we have to. But these are the different ones you can play around with that I recommend. So for Mac and PC, Brackets are pretty nice. For just PC, you have Notepad++ and then Text Wrangler for Mac. Alright, so let me get started. I'm going to open up Notepad++. Okay, got some stuff we got to close here. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You can start typing. You can hold down Control and do the mouse wheel, and that'll make things bigger or smaller. When you want to run things and look at them in the browser, you can do Run, Launch in Chrome, or whatever one you want to do, and that'll run it in the browser so you can see what it's doing. I do have Brackets installed on here as well. And it's kind of similar. You have code here, and then if you want to load it in the browser, you can do that. Just hit Live Preview. And I think that opens it, in your default browser. Okay, you can hit Control plus and Control minus to make the text bigger and smaller. So they all do the same thing. You can use any editor. It doesn't matter. You can create a website in Notepad++, and then you could go and open it in Brackets if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. When you pick one, you're not stuck to it. You just, once you pick one and you start going with it, you usually get used to it, and that's kind of the one you like. But again, it doesn't matter which one you pick, whether you go with Brackets or Notepad++. All that matters is that you can type out code in it. Okay. So, before we start, it's really a good idea to get folder management going. I'm going to kind of move this stuff over a little bit. So you really want, it's just really important that you always know where you save your files and you always know which file you're editing. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll save a file on the desktop and then they'll make another file in a folder and they'll start working on that one in the folder, but then they open the one on the desktop and things just aren't lining up. So it's just really good to get your file management under control before you start, or things can get a little crazy. So the first thing I would always do is right click on your desktop and create a new folder. and you can call it whatever you want. Website, project, whatever. I'm going to say HTML. I'm just going to name it HTML because we're going to be doing an HTML page in here. Once you've done that, and whether you put it on the desktop or whether you put it on a flash drive, wherever you put this, just make sure you remember where you put it. Because the next thing you're going to want to do is save this. So we're going to save this file. So we're going to go File, Save As. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to come down to that HTML folder that I made right there. Okay, that folder right here that I just made is right there. I'm going to double click. And you can type in, I don't know, whatever you want. I'll call it index because index is what you call a home page. Now you can click on this and choose HTML. But if you don't, that's fine. Just make sure that you type in .html at the end of the file. And what that does is it's going to tell the computer that, hey, this is a web page, .html. So treat it like a web page. When I double click it, open it in a browser, and so forth. If you don't give it the HTML, and where the heck did it go? There it is. If you don't give it the HTML extension, this is called a file extension, then it's not going to know what to do with it, and you won't be able to open it, and it's not going to work. So I name it index.html. I'm coming over here. I'm going to save it in HTML. Remember where you're saving this stuff. Okay, I hit save. Now if I come over here, we see I opened up this folder. I have one called index.html in there. All right, so I saved it and we're good. Now here's what people do. So sometimes they'll create something new out here. So they created this out here, and so they start editing this, but they think they're editing this, and it just gets really crazy. So if you're not really sure what's going on, a good thing to do is just close out of everything, double click here. You can right click and open it with Notepad++, or you can do it with brackets if that's what you're using. But I'm going to edit with Notepad+. That way you know for sure that you're editing that file, because that messes with people a lot, is sometimes they're not sure what file they're editing. All right, so I know we're editing this one, so I can close out. We're good. I'm just going to delete that because we don't need it. And let's get coding HTML. So first thing you do is a Doctype. Okay, it looks like that. And you can see in Notepad++, this turns red, which means it hasn't been saved. So I can hit Control S or Command S on a Mac, and once I save that, it goes blue, and that means I'm good. Because the changes that you do in the code will not show up in the browser until you save the file. And so anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I type out the Doctype. So what is this? The Doctype tells the browser what version of HTML you're using. Let me show you something here. So this is HTML5. This is an HTML5 Doctype. They used to look like this. These big, long, nasty things. This is HTML4. So even with the Doctype, it's good. They've come a ways with the Doctype. They've shrunk it down. They made it a lot easier to remember. They took this nasty, beastly thing and they turned it into that, which is happy. All right, but this just tells the browser, hey, I'm going to be writing HTML5 and use all the rules that HTML5 has on this page. Doctypes are important. I've had people with sites before where they don't work, and then you add Doctypes, and then they do, just because the browser didn't know how to handle the code. All right, next tag I'm throwing in there is HTML. So this is the Doctype declaration declaring what kind of Doctype it is. Then this is a tag. Okay, you know it's a tag because you got the less than sign, the greater than sign, and then you have some text in between. You can see in Notepad++, tags are blue. So if you're coding and one of your tags is not blue, it's red or purple, then you know there's an issue somewhere. And it's probably going to be somewhere close to that tag. And this right here is a closing HTML tag, and you can see that it's slash HTML, and that's what means it's closing, is that slash right there. So this is an opening HTML tag, this is a closing. So this is saying we're starting the HTML document here and we're ending it there. All right, the next tag we use is head. Okay, and then the next one we're going to use is body. And you'll see this going red and blue, red and blue. I'm just hitting Control S. I do it on the keyboard a bunch. It's something you're going to want to get really comfortable with, is just saving all the time. Save, 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 because there's just a bunch of times where you'll be coding for like an hour, you forget to save, something happens, and you lose it all. I'm speaking from experience. It's not very fun. Okay. So we got the head tag. Everything in the head tag is usually behind the scenes stuff. Things that you don't see on the page but do things in the background. All right, the first thing we're going to do is a title tag. All right, and we'll close out the title tag. And to be able to see what this does, I'm going to run this in the browser. So I'm going to run it in Chrome. Close out of these. All right, so I put... Actually, we'll kind of do a dual screen here. So you can see I put in a title tag, and all it did is I put this is my first page ever, and then it shows up here. This is my first page ever. That's all the title tag does. Whatever you put inside the title tag shows up here. It's not that amazing, but it's very important, and let me show you why. If I did a search for, say, Amazon on Google, and I come to it here. If I mouse over, the title for Amazon is Amazon.com, online shopping for electronics, apparel, computers, books, DVDs, and more. But when I do a search for Amazon on Google, oh, look at this. Amazon.com, online shopping for electronics, apparels, computers, and ... So the title tag is the actual link that you're clicking on for these web pages. So it's pretty important. Okay, title tags are used heavily in search engine optimization. It gets an idea of what your site's about when it looks at the title tag. So if you're doing this for a business or something, make sure that you have all your keywords and such in there so Google gets a good idea of what the site's about and can categorize it the way it needs to. It's really, really important. It's nothing flashy, but the use of it is really, really important. Okay. All right, moving on. So let's see here. I think that's all we'll do in the head tag for now. We'll do more later. So first thing we're going to do is create a link. Well, I guess before we do that, I'll show you how to put text on the page. You just type in the body tag. That's all you got to do. And by the way, as you make changes, so see, remember this goes red, means it hasn't been saved. You always want to save first, Control S, Command S, whatever, and then you'll come over here to the browser and hit refresh, and then it'll show you the changes. Now, if I put a bunch of more exclamation points in there and I come over and refresh, well, it didn't work. And that's because I haven't saved it yet. So when I save it, then I come back and refresh. I'll hit F5 on my keyboard. That's the hotkey. That'll save you a lot of time. Just hit F5 on your keyboard, and that'll refresh. And then you can see I got all the extra exclamation points. So the changes that you do will not be shown until you save it. Now, some programs like Dreamweaver and stuff, they'll have a live preview window. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So in Dreamweaver, go new, HTML, so I can go split. So as I make changes, it shows up here. So this shows you kind of what it would look like in a browser, and this shows you the code. This is pretty cool, but the problem is this isn't always perfect. And I always want to see exactly what it's going to look like on a page. So I always just kind of keep my code up here and then I keep it open in a browser because I don't want to sit here and think everything's great until I open it in the browser and I'm like, okay, wow, Dreamweaver led me astray. So you just got to be kind of careful about that. Okay, so the first tag we're going to do is a header tag. So it works pretty similar to like a title tag. You start out the H1 tag, so it's a header 1. You type some text inside of the tag, and then you close it out. If you do not close this out, then the whole page will become a header, which we don't want. So make sure you close that out. So Control S, come over here, F5, and that's what it does. If I type some text next to it, it's going to automatically put it on the next line. So you can't really have, or you shouldn't really have things next to headers. Headers are meant to be that, a header for a paragraph or a header for a set of pictures or whatever. But as you can see, the header tag bolds it, makes the text really big, and then it kind of shoots everything else down to the next line. You can go anywhere from H1 to H6. So if I go H2, this is H2. Same thing, except for it's a little bit smaller. And then if I do an H6, then it's just really small, but it still functions like a header, so it would shoot things down to the next line. So again, besides just making things big and bold or smaller and bold, this is good for search engine stuff. If things are in headers, Google thinks, oh, this is important information, so it'll pay a little bit more attention to headers. So make sure these have keywords in it and things like that. All right, so the next tag we're going to do is a link, and you do that with an A tag. The A stands for anchor. So A href, and we'll talk about this in a minute, and we're going to close out the A tag. And we'll say go to Amazon. So what this does is you start out the A tag, and then you got this thing that Notepad++ makes red. And this will probably be a different color depending on what your editor is, but Notepad++ makes this red. This thing, href, is called an attribute. So attributes are always inside of tags. Now they're not inside of tags like go to Amazon is inside of the A tag. They're inside as in they are actually inside the greater than and less than symbols here. So instead of doing this, I don't have that. I actually just hit space and I typed in href. So that's how you do an attribute. So this is an attribute to the A tag. And what the href attribute does is it defines where the link goes when you click on it. So I have to say go to Amazon.com. So when I click on go to Amazon.com, it goes, all right, what's the href? Well, the href is http://www.amazon.com. So let's see what that does. I'm going to save it, F5. Okay, little link. I click on it. Okay, and then it takes me to Amazon. Now, I have to have the HTTP stuff in there. If I don't, it doesn't understand. I click on it and it's trying to open a file called Amazon.com. That just doesn't work. So you have to have the HTTP protocol, the hypertext transfer protocol, just letting the browser know that this is actually a website. Go treat this as a website, not as a file. All right. Now here's a problem. When I click on it, it opens on the page that I clicked on. So now I've lost my site. I'm no longer able to go back to the site unless I hit the back button, which is bad. Your website should never require back button navigation. So I can add another attribute called target. So target equals quote underscore blank. Okay, I'll save that. And what that does is now when I refresh F5, I can click on here and it opens it in a new tab and I get to keep this in the original tab. When you're going to external sites like Amazon and other sites like that, you always want to use the target equals underscore blank. It's just good web design. It's good practice. So now I don't lose this page. I click on it, Amazon opens in a new tab, and then if I want, I can come back to the original page and I haven't lost it. Okay. I'm going to copy this because there's different types of links. So this one is going to be a mail link. So mail to dkidai.edu. So these are email links. Have you ever clicked on a link and it opens up Outlook or opens up some program and it tries to email them? That's what this link is doing. Now, of course, better ways of doing this are contact forms, things like that, but this is a quick way to let someone easily mail you if they use Outlook. So if I refresh, I get another link, I click on it, and it's going to open up Outlook, and then it just puts in the email that I have there, so dkidai.edu. So if I want people to easily be able to open up an email client and email me, I'll use that link. And with this one, you probably wouldn't need a target underscore blank. I think that actually is unnecessary. Yeah, so you don't want this to open up a new tab. You just have it load from this page. Okay, a similar link to this is the This is the telephone. So it'd be like, call us. All right, let me refresh that. So when I click on it, because this is a computer and not a mobile device that has the ability to call, this is trying to actually open it in Skype. It realizes that, hey, you have Skype. Skype makes phone calls, so do you want to launch the application and run this in Skype? Which I don't. But the telnets are really good for mobile devices, because if I was on a mobile device and I clicked this or I touched the link, it would actually open up my dialer and it would put this number inside the dialer. So those are really, really slick things to know there. All right, now as we can see, these links are looking a little weird. They're going across. I don't really want them to do that. So we can use a tag called the BR tag. The BR tag stands for line break. As you can see, I put it right after go to Amazon. So now whatever's after go to Amazon goes down to the next line. Email Dave Kidd, I want the same thing. So BR tag there, Control S, F5, and then that brings it down to the next line. So it's just that. It breaks the line and it sends everything else after this tag down to the next line. That's all it does there. Okay, now there's a similar tag called the P tag. And this is mainly used to just divide paragraphs of information. It puts things on the next line as well. But if you were writing a web page and you had just sections with paragraphs of information, you usually want to stick them in a P tag so then you can later apply CSS to them and things like that. But it's also just good organization for your code. So that's really all it's used for, is just bodies, paragraph bodies basically. All right, that's really all you got to know there with the P tag. Okay, the next one is, let's throw in a BR tag there. So the next one is an unordered list. And close that out. UL, that's what it stands for, unordered list. And inside the list, you're going to have list items. And that's what the LI tag is for. So unordered list basically just gives you a bulleted list. So I could say best video games ever. This isn't really like a top 10 list. This is just games that I think are great. All right, so we got The Last of Us, one of my favorites ever. And then we can just copy and paste this because we just need another list item. I could do any of the Uncharted's. Getting a Naughty Dog thing going on here. If you don't know what Naughty Dog is, it's okay. Let's see here. I liked Alan Wake. That was a cool game. You know, and so forth. I'm not going to spend forever reminiscing about awesome games. But there we go. So as you can see, it's just a bullet. So just a bulleted list. It's unordered. You're good to go. Now I'm going to copy and paste this. Now you don't want to do a lot of copy and pasting just because you won't learn it that well. That's another thing about coding is make sure you're always typing it out and try to do as much from memory as you can. That you'll learn it a lot quicker if you do it that way. If you don't, then you won't learn it that well, especially if all you do is copy and paste off the web. But the more you can type it out, the better you'll process it. So instead of doing an unordered list this time, I'm going to do an ordered list, which is the exact same thing, but it's going to order the list now. And so every list item is going to get a number. So I'm going to do a couple line breaks here. And I could say how to eat food. So the first step's going to be make food, right? Pick up food. Insert food in mouth, and so forth. All right, those two line breaks I think gave too much of a space, so I'm going to get rid of the BR. Should get rid of some space here. All right, that looks a little bit better. So that's the main difference here, is that's bulleted. Unordered list is bulleted. Ordered list is 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Each list item will automatically get a number assigned to it. All right, if I want to emphasize some stuff, I can use a B tag, which bolds letters and words. All right, you can see that it bolded it. If I want to italicize something, it's the I tag. So as you can see, I'm just opening and closing these tags. Now, what if I forgot to close the B tag correctly? Ooh, it just bolded the rest of the site underneath it. So you got to be really careful to close these correctly. Now, this is also talking about nesting. I have 3 tags and 3 closing tags on this line. And improper nesting would be, closing them and opening them in the wrong order. Now, this is properly nested because I opened this one first and I closed it last. I opened this second and I closed it second to last. I opened this third and I closed it third to last. Now, if I were to take this I tag, the closing I tag, and put it right here, it would still work. Okay, but it's just improper coding. It just makes it a little bit harder to read. So you open it first, you close it last, you open it second, you close it second to last, which I'm not doing right now, so I can grab that. But in cases like this, HTML can be pretty forgiving, and it kind of knows what you're trying to do anyways. But that's what they're talking about when they talk about nesting and how to do it properly. All right, now just want to show you how the color coding helps. So say I'm up here and I forget to put in a quote at the end here. Well, I'm looking through my thing and I'm like, okay, yeah, all the tags are blue, great, yep, okay, all right, moving on, looks good. And I get here and I'm like, wait a minute, this closing A tag, it's purple. What's going on? Tags are supposed to be blue. Even closing tags are supposed to be blue. So I know there's a problem. We got a BR tag that's purple. We got this A tag that's purple. And we even have an attribute that's purple. So we know there's a problem. So now we can look at it and go, okay, well, all right, it's blue here, so that's good. Okay, the attribute's red. That's good. Okay, the values are purple, by the way. So this is the attribute equals the value. It's always the attribute equals quote some sort of value and then closing quote. It's always like that. So I got the attributes red, we're good. Okay, the value is purple. It's supposed to be Oh, this is where it needs to be blue. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I forgot the quote right there. And then it's back up and running. So this color coding can really help you troubleshoot very, very easily and very quickly, which is nice. Okay. Last tag I want to show here, it's nothing special. It's an HR tag, horizontal rule. And what it does is just kind of draws a little thing across, horizontal line. You can come in here and give it a width, so you can define how wide it is. As you can see, it's by default it's centered. So I can come in here and say align equals left. So I can align it over to the left, and it'll shoot that over there. So this is just a quick, easy way to make a little thing here that may or may not help in the design, just depending on what you're trying to do there. So, all right, couple things. So that's it for the code. That's all we're going to do in the code. There's just a few more things I want to show you that'll make your life a little bit easier here. So if you take off to this website here, W3 Schools, there is the W3 Consortium. They are the World Wide Web Consortium. These guys control HTML, CSS. They control the online languages. So a group made this site, W3 Schools, and that's what the W3 is. It's off that World Wide Web Consortium. I don't think it's made by W3, but they're kind of hijacking that name for their site. This is a great website because it teaches you all these things. This is actually how I learned HTML when I first started. So you can click Learn HTML, and you can just start going. There's the Doctype. We talked about all of that. You can read through all this, get an idea of what's going on, and then you just hit next chapter. And it takes you into, oh, now you got the editors. Well, we already talked about a lot of these editors. Great. So then you go on to the next chapter. HTML basics, and so forth. What I really like about this site, though, is it always gives you examples of the code and how to use it. But you can always hit try it yourself, and that's going to open up an editor. So I could come in here and start messing with the code and be like, no, I actually want to use an H3 tag there instead. Edit and run, and then you can see over here what it does, how it changes it. So you can mess around and test things out, hit it here, and then you'll see what it'll actually do, if it'll break it or if it'll work or whatever. All right, it's a really great website, a lot of good stuff. And you can come down here, you can go to HTML tag list, and this is all the HTML tags that exist in the world. So if you're ever wondering, does this tag exist? You can come here, can hit Control F, IMG, does that exist? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, puts in an image, great. Then you can click on it, and then it'll show you how to use it. So really, really, really good website. Usually when I Google something, like if I wanted to Google the IMG tag, I'll go IMG W3, because that'll take me to W3 Schools, because I really like it. And then I just boom, click on it, and then I go straight to what I need. Last thing I want to show you here are add-ons for Chrome. This sometimes works, well, maybe we'll do this in another video actually. Sorry guys to get your hopes up there. But anyways, that's it. So let's go again back to this, our host. Okay, so we've now created an HTML page. Well, what if I want to upload this so people can see it? Well, let's do that. So I'm going to open up Firefox. Okay, we're going to use FireFTP just like we did in the other videos. So we click on FireFTP. I have it saved, but I'm going to do a quick connect just so we can go through it again. So remember, you want to keep this email or write this information down or something. So the FTP server is right here. Or even commit this to memory, even better. Good luck though memorizing the B number, but if you can do that, great. ABC 1 2 3. So FTP server is the host, put it in there. FTP login is your crazy B number, put it in there. put in the password ABC123, and I hit connect. Okay, so I connected. We're good to go. I'm going to double click my htdocs because that's my live folder. And I'm going to put this in a folder. Really, every project you do should be in its own folder, because if you don't, you're going to have 20 projects in here. You're going to have 20 different HTML pages. You're going to have like 500 pictures that have to do with them, and it's going to get really gross really quick. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to do create directory. That's going to create a folder in there. I'll call it page because it's my HTML page. Now, when you're naming things on a host or when you save things and you're naming stuff, you don't ever want to do capital letters. You don't ever want to do multiple words because it's just going to make your life a lot harder. So always keep everything lowercase, short, and one word. So really, week 1 is great. W1 is great. W2 for week 2 is great. I could just call it P for page or PG for page. That's probably what I'll do. But when you start doing capital letters and multiple words and things like that, when you start coding stuff, you're going to have to type all that out, and it can get really annoying. So you just got to be careful with that. All right. Now, actually, because I was a good boy, I already put it in a thing called HTML, so I don't need to do that. I'm just going to get rid of it. And usually if you plan ahead like that, you don't have to create folders in here because you've already created the folder here. So I put it in a file in a folder called HTML. So I'm just going to keep it like that. So I'm going to click and drag the HTML folder up there. It's smart enough to go, oh, this is in a folder, so it automatically creates the folder in there for me, and it automatically uploads. I double-clicked there. It automatically uploads the index file as well. So that's the beauty of these FTP clients. You can just click and drag folders. It uploads all the folders and all the stuff inside the folders for you. You don't have to do them individually. So now the question is, how do I access this index.html file? Well, what's my host? My host is mrkid.bytehost18. All right, so I'm going to type that in. And close that just so we can see it. So I throw it in there. Okay, so mrkid.bytehost18 will get me into htdocs. Well, I need to get into a folder called HTML, so I need to type that out here. So /HTML. Okay, when that takes me into HTML, then I want to access a file called index.html. So I get to htdocs doing this, I get inside of the HTML folder doing this, and then I go /index.html, and then lo and behold, it works. If this doesn't work, it's because you typed it wrong up here, or it didn't upload, or you renamed it. Or it could be you had a capital I in index, and you didn't do a capital I over there in the URL box. That's why I say everything lowercase. Makes it easier, because if this was named hello how are you.html, I would have to type hello how are you.html up here to get to it, and that's going to be kind of annoying. But also, as you saw, you can just type in your domain and it'll show you the folders in here. So instead of having to type it out, you can just click to get to it. So I could click to HTML and it'll run. Now you're going, wait a minute, why did this just load? Why didn't I have to type in index? Well, index.html, the server looks for that, and if it finds a file called index.html, it'll just automatically display it. It'll treat it as a home page. So index.html is the home page for the HTML folder. So if I type in HTML, it sees the index and it'll just display it by default. I don't have to type it out. It's kind of a cool thing to know there. Where if I type in week 1, it won't display f.jpg by default because it's not named index.html. It won't display that by default. All right. So that should help. Again, we reviewed how to upload, and so once you get your link here, so there's the page, then you can just copy that and paste that into eCompanion to turn it in. This is the direct link to that page. You could give this to anybody in the world and they could see this page. All right, guys. Hope that helped. If you have any questions, like usual, talk to me. We'll see you later.